Hidden within a massive necropolis of underground tunnels lies the Serapeum of Saqqara, Egypt. Discovered in 1850 by French Egyptologist Auguste Mariette, this subterranean burial ground houses 24 granite boxes. These boxes, with their perfect 90-degree corners and immense weight of nearly 100 tons, are considered one of the world's most incredible mysteries. Believed to be sarcophagi or coffins for the sacred Apis bulls, these granite boxes intrigue modern historians. Their precise angles, enormous weight, and subterranean placement puzzle archaeologists, engineers, and historians alike. Even today's most advanced technology and diamond-tipped drills would struggle to replicate the mathematical genius of the Serapeum boxes. So how did the ancient Egyptian civilization, armed with copper tools and chisels, manage to work the hard granite with such precision? How were these 24 giant boxes, each weighing 70 to 100 tons, not only transported to the site, but also precisely centered and placed in their positions? Archaeologists believe that the Saqqara Serapeum is an ancient Egyptian burial place for the sacred Apis bulls, believed to be incarnations of the god Ptah. But why did the Egyptians expend such an incredible amount of effort, manpower, and precision craftsmanship to bury dead bulls? Even if they were divine, doesn't this seem a bit excessive? Carved from giant granite blocks, the Serapeum granite boxes are located inside miles of underground tunnels and have remarkably perfect 90-degree corners. The ancient masters managed to ensure the precise geometry of the walls inside the boxes, even though they are 3.5 meters apart. The mathematics used in constructing these boxes is extraordinary, and according to modern calculations, the dimensions deviate by 1,000th of a millimeter, a negligible deviation that is nearly impossible to recreate. How did the ancient Egyptians achieve this level of precision, armed with iron, bronze, and copper tools? What is the true historical significance of the Saqqara Serapeum? Mainstream archaeologists' traditional theories are riddled with plot holes as large as the Great Pyramids. Mainstream Egyptologists date ancient structures based on carvings or inscriptions. Therefore, the official dating for the Serapeum boxes relies on crude, amateurish scratches and carvings found on some boxes. Egyptologists have dated these carvings, and therefore the Serapeum boxes, to 3000 BC. However, the hieroglyphs on these particular Serapeum boxes are rough and lack the original mirror-like surface of the boxes. Also, there are plenty of micro-scratches and marks where the chisel slipped on the hard granite during the carving process. Imagine constructing these overly engineered boxes from incredibly mirror-like polished massive granite blocks and then handing the carvings over to an amateur who draws chickens on them. These carving graffiti do not even come close to the superior craftsmanship and mathematical genius of the Serapeum box. What if the boxes were constructed in a different era and inscribed by a different civilization? But the bigger question is, regardless of what ancient age the brains behind these boxes belong to, how could mere human muscle and strength create this architectural marvel? As we delve into other details of these boxes, we don't get any closer to solving these mysteries. In fact, the truth about these boxes gets even more puzzling. According to scientists and archaeologists, the type of granite used for some Serapeum boxes is not even found in the Saqqara quarries. In fact, most of the granite blocks for these boxes come from quarries in eastern Egypt, and there is no river connecting eastern Egypt to Saqqara. The distance consists of about 1,300 kilometers of mountainous terrain and obstacles. Imagine carrying the weight of a granite block across this terrain without technology and machinery, dragging these blocks one by one on wooden planks. Does this sound possible? But not all boxes are made from that particular granite from eastern Egypt. Some boxes are made from granite found in the Aswan quarries. Aswan is about 800 kilometers away from Saqqara, and while Saqqara and Aswan are connected by the Nile River, imagine the weight of just one of the blocks extracted from these quarries in 3000 BC on a boat. Each finished box is estimated to be between 70 to 100 tons. Scientists estimate that a single raw granite piece required for one of these sarcophagi would weigh over 200 tons. Egyptologists portray massive stones being placed on planks and sleds, with sand poured underneath for smooth dragging across mountainous terrain. But considering the weight and enormous size of these boxes, all these explanations fall short. Furthermore, there were no wooden sleds underneath an abandoned box standing in the middle of a tunnel. Without machinery, hundreds of men working in unison could generate barely enough combined force to move this box. But this army of men wouldn't even fit inside the tunnels. Take a look at this box that sheds light on the construction process. First, the tunnel is only 60 centimeters wider than the width of the stone, so there is no room to fit the hundreds of people needed to push the incredible weight of the stone. Second, the stone box is unfinished, meaning the workers did not complete the construction above ground. Instead, the workers chose to take it inside these narrow tunnels to be carved, finished, and polished. Finally, this box shows that the project was abruptly canceled due to a disaster. Some boxes are missing lids, and one box lid lies sadly in the entrance tunnel. Clearly, they were abandoned at different stages of their completion stages. Now, imagine that work environment. Narrow tunnels with less than 30 centimeters of clearance in some hollows, chisels working the hard granite and producing massive amounts of dust, in a dark underground with hardly any ventilation and clouds of dust. This is where the ancient Egyptians achieved the magnificent precision of the Apis boxes. How do we work with similar granites today? Explosives are used to extract granite pieces, lifted from steep quarries with heavy machinery, and then sliced using giant saws operating under hydraulic pressure. Moreover, in modern times, despite incredible advancements in technology, humans avoid the difficulty of working with such large granite blocks. Simply put, it is a very difficult job. Mainstream theories involve Egyptians' skillful use of hand tools. But even today, sawing, drilling, and cutting such a box would be a massive challenge. If experts wanted to replicate these boxes today, an enormous amount of manpower and machinery would be needed to achieve this goal. Even equipped with the latest modern technology, mechanical drills, saws, and carving tools, the process would begin with extracting a giant stone block from eastern Egypt for each box and transporting it to Saqqara. Then they would hollow out the inside of the box, using mechanical drills, maintain geometry with advanced measuring tools, cut lids from the same granite block, polish the surfaces, and lower them underground. Thousands of years ago, achieving this feat with just manpower is mind-boggling. According to modern engineers, working with such a large granite block would be too much work, so they recreated the box using 6 granite pieces instead of a single large block and putting them together to form a box. Just one look at these boxes, and basic logic suggests that their production is aided by something more powerful than human hands and muscle. Carving the giant blocks would have required immense manpower, but also skilled stone-cutting techniques that are still a challenge even in modern times. The uniformity of the thickness of the walls is equally perplexing and requires rational explanations that archaeologists and historians fail to provide. As if the smooth, finished outer surface of the Serapeum boxes weren't mysterious enough, their interiors are even more impressive. They are polished to a glassy finish that retains its reflective sheen, despite recent attempts at polishing. The boxes continue to amaze and intrigue the world. According to researchers, stonemasons of that era were not familiar with abrasive techniques. Instead, a chemical solution was used to achieve this reflective sheen. At the base of the lids, some hardened residue has been discovered, pointing to the use of a long-lost chemical formula. Today, while the boxes show obvious signs of damage with some lids destroyed by ancient looters, the interiors are a testament to the absolute ancient level of perfection of the Serapeum box, smooth and polished. The ancient masters did not neglect the interiors of the boxes at all, but still, that's a lot of effort spent to put mummified dead bulls. While pointing to the astonishing physical characteristics of these boxes and the effort spent to finish them, one constantly comes back to the geometry, the lack of cracks in the stone, and the precision. Using stone pounders to remove the granite from the interiors wouldn't work. The force of the blows would crack the stone blocks. Meanwhile, the alternative theory of chisels scraping out the enormous amount of granite would take forever. If we accept the traditional theories presented by archaeologists as they are, we would have to believe that an ancient civilization without machines and technology managed to extract massive granite blocks from eastern Egypt and Aswan, lift these 200-ton stone blocks from the quarries, transport these unfinished blocks hundreds of kilometers away to Saqqara, and fashion them into geometrically perfect boxes. Was all this work just to bury mummified Apis bulls? So why such big coffins for bulls? Was the extra space to make the mummies more comfortable? The boxes vary in size, but the largest ones are 2 meters wide and 4 meters long. If the bull's comfort was so important, why are other Apis bulls found buried in wooden coffins not far from the Saqqara Serapeum? Moreover, coffin comfort was hardly ever a consideration after death. Pharaohs were buried in such small coffins that there was barely enough room to fit their bodies. The facts don't add up. Also, one wonders why the Egyptians chose granite for these boxes. Why didn't they just use limestone? It was a preferred element for other ancient Egyptian projects. The final resting place for the Serapeum boxes was clearly underground. In this location, the boxes were not threatened with any weathering from the elements, so why wasn't limestone used? Not only is limestone softer than granite, more malleable, and easier to shape, but it is also a relatively lighter material to carry and transport. At this size, there is also an abundant supply of limestone in Saqqara's own quarries. Using limestone would have greatly reduced the labor in the supply chain. The granite used for the Serapeum boxes had to be transported from hundreds of kilometers away, so why was granite chosen? An explanation offered by experts provides some answers. According to Russian scientist Konstantin Borisov, granite is the preferred stone when an airtight container is required. Borisov published his research on Egyptian megaliths, such as the Great Pyramids, and came up with an intriguing idea. Because granite is not porous, the boxes become completely airtight when their lids are closed. Granite is also unique because it is high in quartz crystals. This means that when placed under the mechanical stress of increasing pressure, an electrical charge will be produced. Were these boxes with magnificent architecture mistakenly attributed to sacred bull tombs and actually giant batteries? Borisov detailed that under incredibly high stress, the boxes could generate high enough voltage to ionize the air around them and cause it to glow. The lack of soot and burn marks on the walls inside the tunnel supports the idea that fire torches were not used underground. Did the ancient civilization undertake a mammoth task, like transporting granite all the way to Saqqara, because they needed a non-porous material that traps gases at incredibly high pressures? With the lids of these boxes weighing about 30 tons, perhaps the box was designed to be used as a pressure chamber to carry out a sophisticated scientific process. Furthermore, a 19th century drawing of the boxes also supports Borisov's theory. The drawing shows piles of stones placed on top of the lids. Someone who built or used the granite boxes was trying to increase the pressure of the lids and trap whatever was inside. If these boxes were designed to be coffins, why would they need this extra weight on top of them? There was no question of mummified bulls escaping. So what kind of process were the original creators of the boxes aiming for? Why did a 30-ton lid need extra weight added on top? Egyptologists paint us a picture of hundreds of ancient masters crammed into narrow underground tunnels in dust and darkness, dragging a massive granite block through winding passages and perfectly placing it in its final resting place. Then they repeated this process 23 more times. The motivation and determination required to carry out this project require attribution to something deeper and more meaningful than creating a burial ground for bulls. Therefore, if you pair Borisov's findings with research conducted by engineers like Christopher Dunn, the idea that the Serapeum boxes are giant batteries makes more sense. Dunn presented extensive and cutting-edge research to suggest that the Great Pyramids of Giza served as an energy harvesting machine. The pyramids were not just a flashy monument, but were designed to generate power for the Egyptian civilization. This possibility leads us to consider whether Graham Hancock's explanation of these prehistoric architects actually makes more sense than the ideas of mainstream archaeologists. Hancock's ideas are considered quite controversial and suggest the existence of a technologically advanced civilization lost in prehistoric times, possibly wiped out by a cataclysm. Hancock, from cultural and religious texts from around the world, consistently hints that a great flood occurred. What if this great flood wiped out an incredibly advanced civilization to make way for Egyptians working with copper tools and chisels? What if humans achieved technological greatness long ago in a lost time, but humanity had to start over? Is our understanding of these ancient civilizations and megalithic structures overshadowed by a larger, more mind-boggling truth? What if humanity was already here with machines, power, and technology before,